teach a couple of different classes. I'll talk about the one I'm teaching this semester, excuse me, which is Introduction to Community Psychology. It's a community-based learning class with about anywhere from 20 to 35 students in it. And one of the things that I've been deliberate about this year is, well, two things really. One is varying the types of writing that the students are doing throughout the course of the semester. And the second is to be more explicit about what the goals of the writing assignments are, who the audience is, and how they would go about doing it. So some examples of the kinds of writing that we're doing. We're doing low-stakes, reflective kind of writing almost every week in response to a question that I provide, or a reading that they've done, or some kind of exercise that we've done. So I've had to emphasize multiple times that it's low-stakes writing, but that low-stakes writing still involves, structure and all those kinds of things. It's been a great way to prep students for class discussion the next day, or to have them come in having already thought about it, and I can take a look at what they've been thinking about when I read it later. They've also been doing journal reflection writing on their experiences in community-based learning. Which is, again, another low-stakes, not really graded kind of writing, but a way for them to capture both what's happening as well as how they're thinking about what's happening, and it integrates with the course. And then final assignment they're going to be doing is going to be a community-based project in which they're going to have to write up the various stages of that project, both in terms of what they're doing, but also why they're doing it and how it fits together. So all the way from the start of conceptualizing a social problem that they want to work on to what kind of intervention and policy they would propose, and they'll need to write a letter to the editor talking about that policy and why they think it should be changed in that way. So that course uses a variety now, deliberately, a variety of different kinds of writing styles and genres. Writing that counts a lot for the grade and doesn't count much for the grade, but I've really changed it to try to have them writing every week in some fashion. I think they've been receptive to writing more. There hasn't been a revolt or a rebellion yet, at least. And I think part of the reason why that is because, one, it's been explained, hopefully well, and two, I think they're seeing the connection between how and what they write and what happens in class during the week, so that it's not something that's just tucked away or is an assignment they have to do and then it never relates to what's happening in class, that it gives them a foundation for the small group discussion we're going to be doing, or they've had to think about, a problem in a way that they wouldn't have otherwise, and that they have to go back to the reading in a way that a number of them admit they would not do otherwise, once they've read the chapter early in the unit or something like that. So I think it's been okay. So writing is really fundamental to careers that students might pursue in psychology, right? So one of the ways that I could describe myself as a psychology professor, first and foremost, would be a writer. It's not how I often describe myself, but writing is fundamental to the work that we do, right? It is the way that the research that we do, one of the significant ways that the research we do gets communicated to people both inside the academy and then people in the community, policymakers, stakeholders, community partners. So not only do students need to learn how to write, but they need to learn how to write in different ways for different people. Even if psychology majors don't go on to study psychology, and we have a lot of students that go on to law or medicine or other kinds of things, the ability to organize your thoughts coherently and express them concisely, I think, is a skill that will be valuable no matter what kind of job that you're going to do. I also find that writing is one way to discover what you think about what you're writing about. So the actual process of starting to get things down will actually help cohere in your head what you're trying to understand or what you're trying to communicate. Well, a number of students come into psychology wanting to be a practicing psychologist at some point, right? So they may go to graduate school and be a clinician or a therapist or something like that. Certainly, that career is a melding of a lot of different communication styles, but a key one is writing, right? So writing not only your notes from your therapeutic sessions and your plans for what's going to happen next. If you're doing any kind of clinical evaluation, then you're going to be writing a report on that evaluation that's going to go to non-psychologists, and so you really need to be able to communicate that well. And within clinical psychology, often placing your work in the context of other research that's been done. So how your work is grounded in what we call evidence-based practice, right? So research that has demonstrated that these techniques are effective in the situation that you're in. So within clinical careers, that's certainly the case. Of course, going into any kind of research-related psychology job, one of the main ways that we communicate is through writing, both in terms of writing proposals to get funding or permission to do the kind of work that we want to do, then writing up the results, both for publication in more traditional academic journals or books, and then also for helping to disseminate our work to audiences that don't read academic journals. So other kinds of reports and policy papers and all those kinds of things as well. Part of what the major does is train them in how our discipline writes. So it's a different kind of writing than it is in English or the other humanities, or to a certain extent there are some differences with the biological sciences and other kinds of sciences as well. So students in the major, I think, maybe first unconsciously, but then consciously, are learning the ways that psychologists speak through our writing and communicate through our writing. So they learn that style and the parameters of that type of writing. That's probably quite different from some of the other kinds of writing that they've done.